back to what you know. He promised he won't let you go. A song of healing's written in his stars. God is in this story. God is in the details. Even in the broken parts, he holds my heart. He never
Hello, hello, hello. Nobody warned me. Nobody warned me that losing my son would mean losing myself. Not just my child, but myself as well. For 8 months after Jeremy passed, I kept waking up and asking the same question. Who am I now? Not who I used to be, not who people expected me to be, not who grief told me I was, but who am I now? And if you've ever lost a child, I have a feeling you've asked yourself the same question. Maybe in the mirror, maybe lying awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe in the produce section at Publix. And then somehow, along the way, Jeremy would remind me that his absolute favorite thing, even when things were hard, especially when things were hard, was making people laugh. So today, we're doing this the Jeremy way. We're going to cry a little. We're going to learn a little. We are definitely going to laugh a little. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, we're going to heal a little too. Hello, 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 my beautiful sunblazers and heroes. Welcome to the Rosie Lastra podcast, sponsored by Jeremy's Unity Flight, LLC. I am so glad you're here, and I mean that from the very bottom of my heart. I'm Rosie Lastra, angel mom, faith-filled warrior, a student of both science and spirituality, and just like many of you listening right now, someone who knows what it feels like to lose a piece of your heart and somehow keep breathing anyway. You belong here. This community was built for you. And today's episode is one of the most personal things I have ever shared. Because today we're talking about something almost nobody talks about. Not grief, not healing, not acceptance, but identity. What happens when tragedy doesn't just break your heart? It changes who you are. We're talking about what professionals call an identity crisis, what I call identity collapse. And we're talking about how to rebuild. But before we go there, let's talk a moment together, because this conversation may bring up some emotions. And before we talk to the mind, we need to calm the bodies. If you're driving, guys, please eyes on the road. Just listen. But if you're somewhere safe, I want you to do this with me. Place your right hand on your shoulder and your left hand on the other shoulder, crisscross. Give yourself a huge hug. This is called the butterfly hug. It's a technique used in trauma healing to help regulate the nervous system. Your body needs to feel safe before you can receive truth. Now begin tapping gently on the left and then tap gently on the right. but keep breathing. Okay, now let's breathe in through our nose and breathe out through your mouth. Do it again. And do it again. Keep doing that, guys. Breathe in hope. Breathe out overwhelm. Breathe in God's love. Breathe out tension. Now, while you're still tapping your shoulders, repeat after me. I am safe. I am loved. I am still here. I am still a parent. I am still valuable. I am still needed. And I am still becoming. Take a breath. One more deep breath in through the nose. And slowly out through your mouth. And slowly let your hands rest. Now let's talk about something nobody warned us about. The biggest surprise of grief for me wasn't the sadness. I expected sadness. I expected tears, and I expected heartbreak. What I did not expect was the confusion. Deep, disorienting confusion. The kind that makes you look in the mirror and think, who is that? I remember standing in front of the mirror one morning after Jeremy passed, just staring, and honestly, I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me in that mirror. Not physically, although grief had certainly taken its toll. But I mean emotionally, spiritually, identity-wise. I kept thinking, where did Rosie go? Who is this person? And maybe you've had that moment. Maybe not in the mirror. Maybe lying awake at night. Maybe sitting in a church wondering why you feel like a stranger. Maybe scrolling through old photos thinking, what happened to me? Here's what nobody says out loud. For decades, my identity was woven around being Jeremy's mom. Everything revolved around my children, my decisions, my prayers, my dreams, my plans. Even when they became adults, I was still mom. And I loved being mom. Then cancer entered the picture. Then treatments, then hospitals, then uncertainty, then hospice, and eventually goodbye. Nobody hands you a manual for that. Nobody says, by the way, when this happens, you're going to spend the next year wondering who you are, at least a year. But that's exactly what happened. I wasn't just grieving Jeremy. I was also grieving the future, the thought we'd have together. I was grieving the version of Rosie that existed before September 15th. I was grieving certainty, plans, the assumptions I didn't even know I was making. Friends, if that sounds familiar right now, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not failing. You know, I became a world-class professional at pretending I was okay. Somebody would ask, how are you doing, Rosie? And without even thinking, the biggest response was, oh, I'm okay. The truth is, Many grieving parents become professional actors. We learn to smile, to function, to show up, but inside, we're asking questions nobody can see. Who am I now? Why am I still here? Why him and not me? What am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? Because transformation always begins with uncertainty. Every transformation, every rebirth, every new chapter starts with confusion. Give me a minute, folks. Let me see who's on right now. Welcome, welcome, Strong Island. Strong Island's in the house. Okay, can you tell me where you guys are tuning in, what your name is and where you're tuning in from? Would love to see that, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here. Now, what I was talking about transformation, that's what we're going to, exactly where we're going to next. Because what I discovered about transformation changed everything. And the first time I heard it, I cried. Not because I was sad, because it was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. Let me tell you what really happened after Jeremy passed. Not the version people saw, the real version. The one behind the smile, behind the Facebook post, behind the I'm doing okay. Because if we're going to talk about rebuilding identity, we have to be honest about what it looked like when it collapsed. And mine absolutely collapsed. For 8 months after Jeremy passed, I went home to be, Jeremy passed and went home to be with Jesus. I'd wake up and think, now what? What am I working towards? Who needs me? How did I keep my mind occupied? When your life has revolved around your child, especially a child you've been fighting beside through cancer, everything changes. Not some things, but everything. Cancer doesn't just affect the people that are diagnosed. It reorganizes the entire family around survival. Every appointment, every scan, every treatment, every prayer, every phone call, and every sleepless night. And then one day, the fight ends. And you have absolutely no idea how to live without it. Nobody tells you that after years of fighting for someone, you may not know how to fight for yourself, actually. I wasn't just grieving Jeremy. I was grieving purpose, direction, the future I thought we were going to have together. Because parents are not supposed to outlive their children. At least that is what we tell ourselves. But grief doesn't care about our plans. Oh, give me a minute, folks. Now, can we talk for a minute about guilt, especially survivor's guilt? Because I know I am not the only one. The what ifs. What if I had said the right thing at the right time? What if I had moved faster? Why didn't I make him see? What if I could have showed him a different way? Why did I not do any of this? Then there is the guilt of laughing, the guilt of having a good day, the guilt of moving forward, the guilt of experiencing joy, even for a moment. Have you ever caught yourself laughing and then immediately thought, wait, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to be happy? I did that constantly. But here's what Jeremy and God eventually taught me. When Jeremy came to me to tell me he was all right, he was happy, that I needed to get out there and live and to remember the dream, that he would always be with me no matter what, I learned that when we heal, we honor what they taught us. We carry their love forward. We allow their story to continue through us. And that realization changed everything for me. Can we also acknowledge that grief has the absolute strangest sense of humor? Boy, does it. Jeremy was genuinely funny, not trying to be funny. He actually was funny. He had this gift of making people laugh, even when things were really, really hard. Sometimes he'd annoy you too, but for the most part, he made you laugh. And there were days after he passed when something would happen at the precise moment, like the day I went to take a bath. I turned on the knob and the bathtub, water went all over the place. And I was actually still in my clothes. I just knew that was Jeremy. I could hear him. My head say, loosen up. You have to smile, Ma. Especially on the days I was taking myself way too seriously. You know, that feeling when you start acting like the entire weight of the world's on your shoulders and like you're responsible for the whole universe. That was me. And honestly, he would be right. Because one of the things grief taught me is that we were never designed to carry everything by ourselves. Some things belong to God. For a long time, I was carrying things he never asked me to carry. The future, the answers, the timing, the healing, the purpose, all of it. I wanted certainty. God wanted trust. That is the hardest lesson. But it is very powerful, folks. Then something started happening little by little, guys. The American bald eagle's nest outside of Jeremy's hospice center. The whole time he was there, Jeremy's favorite animal was the American bald eagle. Then at Jeremy's celebration of life, as he was transitioning, my cousin's phone started playing 10,000 Reasons, all by itself. Then the monarch butterflies, they followed my cousin. They followed me. It's like they were following us all the way home. They followed me from Frostproof to Tampa to Miami, unexpectedly. And they would just keep showing up again and again. And everywhere I looked, it felt like God and Jeremy were whispering, Rosie, keep going. This isn't the end of Jeremy. And definitely not the end of you. I'm not finished with you yet. The more I paid attention, the more I realized something. Those messages weren't only about Jeremy. They were about me. God wasn't just comforting me. He was preparing me for a new chapter, a new mission, a new identity, and Jeremy's legacy. But God kept showing me something. And that's when everything started to shift. I stopped asking, why did this happen? And started asking God, what do you want me to do with this, God? That one question changed my life because purpose entered the conversation, and purpose changes everything. Purpose doesn't just erase grief, folks. It doesn't make the loss disappear. But purpose gives suffering somewhere to go. And what felt like the end of my story became the beginning of a new chapter. Not one I would have chosen, but one God was writing anyway. Speaking of purpose, folks, if you're at that place where you know something needs to shift, but you're not quite sure where to start, I want to personally invite you to the Soldier's Directive. It's a free live masterclass where we will take everything you're learning today and walk all the way through execution together. Comment the word directive on any of my social media posts, and I'll send you personally the link so you can register. Or visit jeremy'sunityflight.com/masterclass. This one is for you. Now, what I discovered next is what completely transformed how I understood grief, because I found something in science that explained everything I've been experiencing spiritually. We're going to talk about caterpillars, butterflies, and cells with the most beautiful name in all of science. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at a butterfly and thought how beautiful they are? Of course you have. We actually all do at one point in time. We all love butterflies. We put them everywhere. On jewelry, on art, on wall art, tattoos, Instagram bios. We are obsessed with butterflies, and we should be. But here's the thing, most people have absolutely no idea how a butterfly is actually made. And once you learn it, you will never look at the butterflies the same way again. Most of us picture it like caterpillar goes into the cocoon, takes a little nap, wakes up with wings, the end, and the butterfly flies. Adorable story. Here's what actually really happens. The caterpillar enters the chrysalis. Its old identity dissolves. Its old form disappears. Its old structure collapses completely, folks. And for the period of time, it looks like nothing meaningful is happening. It becomes what scientists call imaginal soup or imaginal fluid. The caterpillar essentially dissolves itself inside the chrysalis. Its tissue breaks down into a cellular liquid. And then specialized cells called imaginal cells use that raw material to build a butterfly from scratch. And that is exactly what grief feels like. After Jeremy passed away, I felt like imaginal soup. Lost, confused, uncertain, disconnected. Not who I used to be, not yet who I was becoming, just floating. And maybe you're right there right now. Maybe you're listening to this thinking, Rosie, that is exactly how I feel. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what comes next. I don't know where God is taking me. Friend, you are not alone, and you are not broken. Now here's the part that made me cry. The blueprint is already there. The first time I learned that, I sat there thinking, that is exactly how God works, folks. Before Jeremy ever got cancer, before September 15th, before hospice, before the heartbreak, God already knew who I would become. He already knew the podcast would exist. He already knew Jeremy's Unity Flight would exist. He already knew the people Jeremy would continue to touch through his legacy would be there. And maybe that's true for you too. Maybe you can't see the blueprint yet. Maybe all you can see is paint. But just because you can't see the blueprint does not mean it isn't there. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Not I'll figure it out later. Not let's see what happens. He already knows, even when we don't. Now here's where the neuroscience gets real important, because many grieving parents think something is wrong with them. And they ask, why can't I focus? Why am I so exhausted? Why can't I make even a simple decision? Why do I feel so overwhelmed all the time? Been there and did that. The problem is that many grieving parents get stuck in survival mode. And when your body believes danger is everywhere, it becomes nearly impossible to dream, nearly impossible to trust, and nearly impossible to rebuild, folks. That is why regulation matters. That is why prayer matters. That is why community matters. Because transformation requires safety. The butterfly cannot emerge if the process keeps getting interrupted. And then I learned the wildest part of the whole story. I spent a long time arguing with God. I wanted the whole blueprint. God wanted me to take one step, just one step at a time. But looking back now, I understand why. If God had shown me everything he was going to do through Jeremy's story, it would have never had happened, because I would have been so overwhelmed, it wouldn't have come into fruition. So instead, he gave me the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And that's when I realized something. I want you to hear me clearly, folks. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not weak. You are a human being trying to rebuild after one of the hardest things that life can happen in life. And that takes time. It takes grace. It takes faith. And sometimes it takes a butterfly to remind us that transformation often looks like failing before it looks like flying. You know what I love about this community? You show up, folks. Even when it's hard. Even when you don't know who you are anymore. And I want to go deeper with you. The Soldier's Directive is a free live masterclass where I walk you through my entire architect model. All 4 stages with tools you can use immediately. Comment directive on any of my posts and I will send you the link. Or go straight to jeremy'sunityflight.com/masterclass to grab your spot. They are getting filled quickly and there are not many spots left. I would love to see you guys there. The caterpillar never becomes a better butterfly. It becomes something entirely new. And that realization became the foundation of everything I teach, including the 4 stages we're going to walk through right now. Okay, so now we get to the question everybody asks. Rosie, I understood the butterfly. I understood the cocoon. I understand the imaginal soup or the imaginal cells, but what do I actually do? How do I rebuild my life? How do I find myself again? How do I move forward without leaving my child behind? That is exactly why I created what I call the architect model. Not because I had all the answers, but because I needed a blueprint, a roadmap, something that helped me make sense of what God was doing inside of me, while everything outside of me felt like chaos. Let me check the messages, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. God bless you. I have butterflies. They're symbolic in my culture. They're symbolic in so many cultures. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're incredible, Queen. Keep going. Keep showing up. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. Healing is messy, but these 4 stages help me make sense of the mess. Stage number 1 is regulate. Before God can build something new, he must calm the storm. Not eliminate it, calm it. And we need to do this, if possible, daily, even if it's only with prayer and or meditation. Oh, and I heard a reverend in our church tell us, actually, he explained that prayer is asking God and meditation is listening to God. So meditation is amazing. Okay. That's why we started today with a butterfly hug, because an irregular nervous system struggles to hear truth. When we're overwhelmed and operating on survival mode, everything feels impossible. But once the nervous system begins to settle, we can finally hear ourselves think. We can hear God's voice more clearly. We can breathe again. And sometimes we even hear our children, like I heard Jeremy. But I'm not joking when I say regulation is the foundation, folks. You cannot rewire what you cannot regulate. Stage 2 is rewire. This is neuroplasticity. This is where we begin paying attention to the stories we tell ourselves. Because after loss, we often start repeating things that aren't true. My life is over. I will never be happy again. Nothing matters anymore. God is finished with me. Lie, 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 and lie. And the problem is our brains believe repetition. And our subconscious doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie. Whatever we repeatedly tell ourselves starts to feel true. That's why scripture matters. That's why prayer matters. That's why this community matters, because truth interrupts the lies. Stage 3. This is where things start getting exciting. This is where we stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what can I build from this? Now, let me be very clear. I am not saying your child's death happened for a reason. I am saying God can bring purpose from pain. There is a difference, a huge difference. For me, rebuilding became Jeremy's Unity Flight. This podcast, this mission, this community, and this calling. I often say I didn't choose this mission. This mission chose me. I would give it all of it back in a heartbeat if I meant bringing Jeremy back. Every grieving parent understands that completely. But since I can't change what happened, I can choose what I do with it. And that choice changed everything. Maybe for you, rebuilding looks different. Maybe it's writing. or mentoring or volunteering. Maybe it's finally starting that thing God has been pushing you to start. Maybe rebuilding starts simply by choosing to believe your life still matters. Friend, it does. Stage number 4, execute. This is where transformation becomes movement, where we stop waiting until we feel ready. I've launched podcasts without feeling ready, started businesses without feeling ready, spoke on stages without feeling ready, press record without feeling ready. Take the step, trust God, let confidence catch up. When I think about Jeremy, one word always comes to mind: courage. Not because he wasn't afraid, because he kept moving forward anyway. Cancer taught me many things, but one of the greatest, not perfection, not certainty, courage. That was the greatest, folks. If that architect model is resonating with you and you want to walk through all 4 stages in a live interactive setting where I can answer your questions in real time, the Soldier's Directive is exactly where we go deeper. It is completely free. It is built for you. And I would be honored to have you there. Comment directive on any of my posts or head to jeremy'sunityflight.com/masterclass right now. Your next step is waiting. Before we finish, folks, I want to come back to the question we started with. Who are you? Maybe today you don't have a complete answer. That's okay. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly. It just knows something is changing. Maybe that's where you are right now. Something is changing. Something is growing. Something is being rebuilt. And even if you can't see it yet, God can. The blueprint is actually still there. The purpose is still there. The calling is still there. The love is still there. And your child, their legacy, is never going away. It's still there too. Jeremy's legacy sits right here with me. Every episode, every conversation, every life touched, his story continues. And so does yours. Folks, let me do a closing prayer over you. Please, yes, receive it. Father, I lift up every grieving parent listening right now. Every mother, every father, every grandparent, every family carrying a love that never ends. Wrap them in your peace. Remind them they are loved. Remind them they are not forgotten. Remind them they are not broken. Show them the blueprint you placed inside them before they were even born. Give them the strength for today. Help them for tomorrow. And give them the faith for the journey ahead. For every Jeremy, every child, for every family, carrying love that never ends. May their grief become growth. May their pain become purpose. May their story become testimony. And may they always remember that you are still writing their story. In Jesus' name, amen. My beautiful sunblazers and heroes, thank you for being here with me today. I love you. I mean that. This community is everything, and you belong here. If this episode touched your heart, share it. Send it to another grieving parent. Leave a review. Help us reach someone who needs hope today. And excuse me, and don't forget, comment Jeremy on any of my posts and I'll send you the episode link. Comment Directive and I'll send you the details on the Soldier's Directive Masterclass. Until next time, I love you. Jeremy loves you. God loves you. Keep flying. God bless you. See you next time.